In case you can't tell by the name, Yikes Murder and Stuff contains themes that are not suited for children. It's also no good for the workplace and probably not your Mima and your Papa either. We're going to talk about some grim subject matter, probably make uncomfortable jokes, and we're definitely going to be cursing. But if that's something you're into, then put your headphones on and hop in our nondescript windowless van and come see the puppies. Hello! Welcome back to another episode of Yikes, Murder, and Stuff. I'm Jennifer Sandwich.
I'm Mells Bells.
And I'm Acadia, the rock upon which all this shit is built.
Okay. If that's what you want to be, the Rock of Acadia. That's your name.
That's right.
Okay. Well, today we're going to talk about some really cool contraption called Le Guillotine. And that's not a good French accent. So.
No, it is not.
The guillotine.
There it is. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mells Bells. The guillotine is, I think everybody knows this. It's a machine. It's got a heavy blade. Not a sling blade, but the regular blade that slides vertically into grooves.
Some call it a Kaiser blade.
Fried taters.
What you got there in them sacks? Wash.
Make the perfect executioner, I think. That would be awesome. I'd be like, oh, okay. Kill me. That's cool. I
Come
like that
put your head in
character.
this contraption.
Okie dokes. I will do.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so it beheads people. I think we know that. And it's quick and efficient. Blade is weighted and angled. This I did not know that it was weighted. For some reason, I just thought the weight of the blade itself would just bring it down. But it's raised to the top of a tall structure that's built on demand. So whenever they need to cut off a head, they'll just build it. So it's not like there all the time.
Well, what do they do with it? Why? That seems inefficient. Like, why? You mean they just take it apart and what? Sell it for scrap and then build a new one?
I don't know. I was really shocked to find out that it just wasn't there. But maybe in the height of like the French Revolution, they just said, you know what? We're going to be using this all week. Just keep it up. Nah.
Kind of seems like
don't break it down.
That sounds like Big Guillotine trying to like pad its pockets a little bit. Like, oh no,
right?
it's single use. You have to get a new one every time.
Yeah, individually wrapped. Mells, could you tell us a little bit more about why the blade is angled and weighted and exactly what goes into making a guillotine?
For sure. So it seems like before they came up with the guillotine itself, they were taking on the method of the prisoners or the victim, the condemned. They were put into gallows where they were half standing, arms and head were in the holes of the gallows. And then they would take whatever weapon of choice at the time. So a blade, an axe, whatever it may be, and
a hammer.
What weapon of choice? Yes,
head off.
Whatever was going to get the job done, they were using that to try to get the head off in one fell swoop and make it as clean as possible. Of course, what they found out is this made for super messy and inefficient death because sometimes one hit wasn't enough. Sometimes it took several hits. So in an effort...
This is really weird to me to find out that people were standing. They used to like have their arms and their head in stocks, and they were like standing up, so they like chop the head off, chop, 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 chop. Finally, the head would go off. What a fucking mess. And then the body would just drop, and the arms would still be in the stocks.
I would just like hang there by the arms. So I can imagine it was quite a show, which I believe it was quite a spectator sport back in those days.
The first person to be guillotined in the modern guillotine was Nicolas Jacques Pelletier. Did I do that right, Acadia?
It's Pelletier.
Pelletier.
I mean, if they were from Maine, because there's a lot of Frenchies in Maine, so yeah, that's how we would have pronounced it, as Pelletier.
Oh, okay. Well, he was the first. He's the virgin of the guillotine, the modern guillotine. He was the first virgin of the new and improved angled blade.
I mean, he had his guillotine head popped.
Yeah.
Lost his man card and head that day, so...
Gross. So they used to have a rounded blade Is this
Yes.
correct?
Yes. So what they used to use was a curved blade. They didn't really realize until a couple of botched executions that that wasn't really actually cohesive to making a clean slice, which is why they came up with the idea of it being angled. So
Uh-huh.
it would make a clean cut, and also for it to be raised and for it to be weighted, which kind of took some pressure off of it being the sole position of the executioner to try to make it one clean slice.
Right. So Sling Blade didn't have to work as hard, didn't have to work out so much. All he had to do was pull a thing
See,
and mm-hmm.
that seems like the
we're done.
kind of thing that they would have been able to practice amply before they actually had somebody's head in it. Like, there's a lot of things that you can chop in half with a contraption that are going to simulate somebody's head. Like,
Yes.
I don't know, a goat's head or
How
some
was
shit.
this tested? What happened here? It's like, what did they do? They just said, okay, well, you know what? This isn't working out so well. Let's try the next prisoner, a different kind of blade. And just like every prisoner, they're just like, well, guess what, buddy? This is not going to work out so well for you, but it's going to go on for posterity because it's going to help society because we're going to kill you in the messiest way possible, but
Exactly.
it's going to help us kill future people easier. That sucks.
Yeah, that does kind of suck.
As with many techniques, even in modern day, they first did test the guillotine contraption on live animals.
Well,
That's
Yeah.
just great.
Yeah.
Fucking
It
bastards.
was usually, I know it's so sad. It was usually sheep and calves, so
Ugh.
baby cows. But once they got clean cuts on live sheep and calves, they moved on to testing the apparatus on the corpses of women and children.
Why? Why is it women and children? What the? What? Why? What is that?
well-known
Are they
criminals,
less-
that's why.
Is that maybe lesser known, but they like lesser people or something? And they're like, well, we better not test
That
them on
doesn't-
any men because we're all men here. So
Yeah,
we're gonna
you
go
know,
ahead and test them on everything that's not us.
those men's have been highly regarded for years. So, but it was the men.
I didn't do it.
I know.
It was the men's that actually prompted the redesign of what we came to know as the modern guillotine because they realized that the cuts were not clean on male corpses. Perhaps it was because the structure of the man's neck is different. I mean, men's necks are thick. So the height was then increased and the blade was changed to a triangular shape. And that's how they came about to realize, okay, so when you're alive, this was tested on the animals, unfortunately. And whether you're a woman or a child or a man, this weighted angled blade was going to be sure to take care of the job. You were going to get your head chopped off and it was going to happen in one fell swoop. And that was going to be the end of it.
Science.
Well, I mean, the alternative is like, oh, we're just going to push you down this hill. And then if you don't die, we're going to drag you back up it and push you down it again. Like, they're like, we don't know what to do.
I know well, whatever it is depends. I guess it depends on the crime, how badly your death is gonna go.
Well, yeah, in the Salem witch trials, like when they said they was stoning people to death, like one of the only guy that got killed in the witch trials, they just literally piled rocks on him until he died.
Yeah, that's right. Another story, but you can also go to strangefulthings.com and check out that story because I believe Acadia did a
That was
did a
that was
podcast on that
Grackles
too.
only on that show. They
Was
tried to
it?
do a coup
Oh.
and get rid of me.
Yeah, it didn't work.
It didn't
or did
take.
Okay. Acadia still lives. We'll try again another day.
Yeah.
So,
As we've learned, he is the rock on which everything
That's
is
right.
the guillotine might not be perfected yet. We might need to test it out some more. Once the blade is released, obviously it decapitates the victim with a clean cut. We've got this brand new, perfect killing machine. It's great. Everybody's happy. Guess what? Time for the French Revolution, motherfuckers. We are gonna put this thing to the test. So this is the time where everybody wanted to execute everybody. It was great fun. Supporters of the revolution, gonna execute you. Royalty, you're going down. Off with your head. It stayed like it stayed the method of death penalty in France until Acadia. What year do you think that that they were cutting people's heads off?
I don't
Take a
know.
guess.
They probably got rid of it in like I don't know, just before, right after World War One, I'll say.
Okay, Mel's, what year did the guillotine finally get put away?
1981.
Wow.
1981.
Wow.
People were still getting executed.
Yeah, but I don't think you're burying the lead there.
Listen,
They're
no.
not just that they're getting executed; they're getting executed with a guillotine.
They're getting their bodies separated from their head. Yes. The guy who invented it, his name's Joseph Ignace? Guillotine. Somebody help me with this French. God, France, please don't hate me for this. But he's the one. They actually had the guillotine going on, but it was not perfected, and it was being tested. And finally, this was kind of the successful test. Was Joseph Ignace guillotine, who is named after. He's the one who decided that the modern guillotine is the one that's to be used with the angled blade and everything. And he thought that this was like the most humane way of doing capital punishment at the time.
Well, he's not wrong.
I guess not. It's they used to pull the condemned's head up by their hair.
Well,
that seems cruel and unusual to me.
Well, yeah, but I mean, remember, I mean, they literally would just try to figure out a way to kill you, and none of them were good. Like, the like you mentioned, the guy had a bad day, and all of a sudden it took him like 4 whacks to chop your head off. And all that kind of crap. And quick, and you don't really feel it is what everybody is shooting for. Right. You know what I mean? So that's the best they could come up with. I mean, they didn't invent that thing they kill cows with, that like pneumatic gun thing, because they didn't have the technology.
Wasn't there a movie with the gun that was that?
No Country for Old Men. Woo.
There it is. Yeah. Where he's like walking around with that sweet haircut, killing everybody with
the bowl cut from hell.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Well, it is funny because the whole thing is of course, their preferred method. The crowds wanted it. The people wanted. They wanted to see this type of vengeance on those that had done them wrong, and so beheading was, during this time, just popular amongst a lot of European countries. It wasn't just France. It's funny because the executioners themselves, because it was such a daunting and terrible task, they didn't really like to. There were very few of them that actually enjoyed going in and cutting people's heads off. So a lot of them.
So it was kind of a reluctant executioner kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like they were all like, man, I hate my job, but it's a living.
It's a paycheck.
Yep.
So a lot of them would do things. They would drink before to try to ease their conscience, ease their mind. And this is where you got a lot of those botched executions, and where it took 5-6 times for them to finally get the head off the body.
That is super interesting.
Yes.
So this was kind of the first like coping mechanisms that's not working, folks.
Right,
yeah, don't drink your cares away, because it ends up in botched execution.
Well, yes.
Don't do it.
And a lot of times, because it wasn't killing people instantly. I mean, there's a very famous beheading that we talked about, or is known in society for Mary Queen of Scots, I believe.
Right.
Where it took a lot of times for them to get her head off. And the whole time it was very traumatic, because she was yelling, she was moaning, she was saying prayers. And all this time they were just trying to get this over with and get it done. So that's when they thought, okay, people still want to see beheadings. This is the preferred method for capital punishment. But what's the most humane way?
The crowd loves it.
Yeah. What's the most humane and conscious thing that we can do for government, I suppose, to try to help ourselves sleep at night? And that would be just building this apparatus and pulling a string that would take care of all of that very cleanly, very easily. And people could, even though they had to pull the string, they weren't necessarily having to drink it up at the pub before they had to go down and cut someone's head off.
I think about also Mary Queen of Scots having her head chopped off in such a horrible, disgusting, graphic manner. I think other nobility people who were like, ugh, that's not cool. I'm not sure that they would care so much if it was somebody who wasn't the Queen of Scots or another person of means.
Yeah, I don't think they cared how many like plebes got their heads chopped
Blacksmiths
off.
or
Yeah, they don't care.
yeah, homeless dude begging for apples or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to do it just to ease their own conscience, though, as far as the turmoil it took on those that had to be actively involved in the execution itself. Not so much the crowd, or not so much whoever ordered the execution, but those that had to actually carry out the act.
From what I understand, didn't the people just kind of love the chopping of the heads?
The people are horrible, and they loved seeing all of the executions because no other form of entertainment had been invented yet.
If you've watched the Ted Bundy tapes thing, where the people who were out at Stark's, they're just a bunch of good old boy drunken college frat dudes out there, and like having a party. I feel like that would be the kind of people who would be at a public execution back in the day.
Cheering for it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just bloodlust. I mean, just that mob mentality. The Reign of Terror. The first royalist guillotined was, I'm gonna butcher this, Louis Coyonneau d'Angremont.
Angremont.
Hey, good job.
Does that mean from the Angry Mountain?
Probably.
That's what we're going with.
I love it. Between June of 1793 and July of 1794, 17,000 deaths occurred by guillotine?
That's productive right there.
That seems like a lot but it must have been like all over. It couldn't have been just like one guillotine just working.
No, because if that was the case, then it'd be like a super long line.
Yeah, Joseph Guillotine would have been pretty rich after all of the single-use guillotines
that
going
right?
on. So he would have been just rolling in the dough. But that's when King Louis and Queen Marie Antoinette were executed.
I'm sure that they had like a special day where it was like just them, but I think everybody else, like the other 16,990 not as famous people, probably, they kind of assembly lined the whole thing.
Yeah, they just had to take a ticket.
I believe that.
Did you work for the king? Well, yeah, but I had a shitty job and nope, too late. We're just going to go overboard with the whole fucking thing and you're getting shot. So that means there were 17,000 heads that had to get taken care of.
Well, that you have the body part of it also. They're just...
Well, yeah, but I mean...
Yeah, they're two separate things. I mean, what are they going to do? Just throw the bodies on
But you got to go... What I'm saying is, you got to go get the head. Like, they put it in that little basket, but you still have to... There's a lot to it.
The local bowling alley could have probably used the heads for...
Oh.
So, I mean, that's...
Hey, heads will roll.
They will, right?
Well, it's funny because, like we mentioned, it's viewed as a source of entertainment during this time, and the crowd size was so huge. They were executing multiple people a day because they were selling programs, like at a baseball game. They were selling programs with the names of the people that were to be executed on that day.
What? Oh my God, this is crazy. But so, like, you would go out and get a program and be like, like you'd open the newspaper and just say, oh, look at this. That snotty Jane Smith down the road is finally going to get her comeuppance.
Yeah, she's getting hers.
We're heading off. Yeah, we're going to that show. We're going to that program.
Put on your Sunday best, kids. We're going down to the execution yard.
Ponchos? Everybody got your blood ponchos?
It's not their fault. They had nothing else to do.
That's true. What is there to do besides...
Like the father would come home and go, hey, kids, we have two choices today. We can go to the execution, or I can have sex with your mother in front of you because our house only has one room, and then I will beat you all.
And we have very sexy French people.
Exactly. So, of course, everybody went to the execution because the alternative was worse.
Right. It's just totally boring. But, I mean, wouldn't you get tired of going to the same fucking baseball game every day? Or is it just like, these are new people?
No, because if you think about it, if you were saying, okay, guess what? You've been, everything about your life is sucked, and we're going to let you come and watch us kill all the people that you're blaming for your shitty life.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, during the Reign of Terror, it was probably so popular because that it was the revolution of the people. So they wanted to see this. They wanted to see all these people suffer that had been making them suffer for so long.
Yeah, fuck you, evil global corporation heads.
Yeah.
We're coming for you, was what they were saying.
Yeah. Although,
Right.
technically then, so then you've kind of got I don't want to say like a conflict, but so let's just pretend for a minute that we're not like super, civilized or whatever. I mean, on this show.
Wow.
If there was someone that you really, really, really like the monster of all monsters, like so bad that like people were like, oh man, we wish Hitler would come back because he's better than this guy. Like the worst. I don't know if I would be super excited to have him have his head chopped cleanly off so that he doesn't suffer. Like, I kind of feel like I would want just like the first quarter inch of the bottom of his feet to get chopped off first, and then keep going a quarter inch at a time until he died.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, the toy box killer. Yeah, we're not going to do a story on that guy because he's overdone, but that would be one of the people that I would be like, I don't think I'd want to go to it, but I would definitely check the box for him.
I think they had so many people that they had such vendettas and such hatred for that they probably wanted to just see them all. It was almost like if it was a single execution, like in Hitler, for instance, then yeah, you'd probably want to see a little bit more suffering. But since there were so many, they probably enjoyed the fact that it was like, oh, great. So we've got 10 executions up today, and I want to see every single one of them gone from here. And if it's a clean cut, that's how I'll take it. But the hatred that I have in my heart and the vengeance that I want to see done, then that's fine. I just want to see it done.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a catch-22 also that we had all of these people to kill and we didn't know how that we were going to show our new public from the French Revolution that we're going to kill all these people, that the guillotine made it easier, or that the guillotine was invented and now we have all these people to kill. Did I explain that right or no? Like, we have a bunch of people to kill. Let's invent the guillotine.
Yeah, that's the way it went. They didn't invent the guillotine and say, well, now what should we do?
Better kill a bunch more people now that we can.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it did serve as a symbol of like revolutionary ideals during this time. So it was almost like an equality in death between commoners and then royalty.
Sounds great.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't it? Yeah. I see so many guillotine memes out there right now. It's just like everybody's like, oh, this guy increased the price of this pharmaceutical and now he's got to go to jail. And then I see people like with guillotine memes, and I'm just like, yeah, well, I suppose I can see where they're coming from. But on that note, we are going to take a quick break and we will be right back after these brief messages. Come on down to Heads Up Discount Guillotines, where we've got the best selection, the best quality, and the best prices on all sorts of bladed contraptions that'll make your head roll! We've got life-size exotic wooden guillotines fit for a king and a queen. We've got guillotine toys for girls and boys. We've got guillotines to clip your cigars and slice your bagels, and we're making deep cuts to all prices. This weekend only, you'd better be heading to Heads Up Discount Guillotines because we're executing a public sale and chopping prices so low, you'll want to get ahead of the crowds. Heads Up Discount Guillotines, where our prices make our competitors lose their heads! Okay, we're back. Now we're going to talk about how long the guillotine went on and when the guillotine was not used anymore. Now, as we know, the guillotine was discontinued, per se, in 1981. It was done. In France, they were like, okay, probably don't have to do this anymore. But the last public use of the guillotine was June of 1939. This guy's name was Eugene Wiedemann. He murdered 6 people. That's a whole other story. We might do a story on that because that looks super interesting. But he was the last person to be publicly guillotined.
That guy's name became a noun and a verb. That's pretty dope.
It is. It's it's great. I
him
love it.
and everybody named Lance.
Lance. The last actual private guillotining was Hamida Jandoubi in 1977. So not that long ago. The last time the guillotine was used in a private setting officially, we don't know what's going on in other places privately, but was 1977. That's the last time a beheading by any Western government took place. Causes that led up to not doing public beheadings were basically the crowd was fucked up, man. When Eugene Weidman was executed in public in 1939, people were recording it. There's a fucking video out there. You sick fucks. Look it up. It's out there. Yes, you can look up the video. We'll link it in the show notes. But there is a video of this 1939 execution. I watched it. There's actually 2 of them that I found. So 2 people recorded it. And because they were secret recordings and the crowd was a fucking mess, the crowd was out there using their handkerchiefs to sop up blood from Eugene's execution so they could take it as souvenirs. So it was extremely fucked up.
They're like, how are you going to believe it? Well, because in 50, 60, 70 years, maybe there'll be DNA and everyone will be jealous of me.
Look at this. How do I know that that's Eugene Weidman's blood?
You just have to wait. Trust me.
You'll know in 80 years.
Right after O.J. Simpson, give or take a few years, then all of a sudden everyone will know that I have the true Eugene Weidman souvenir.
Do you have anything to add, Mells, about the beheadings becoming private or going public?
I mean, nothing more than what you said as far as the reason that they went into the private setting for beheadings or using the guillotine is because of the recordings of Eugene Weidman's death. They just started to realize that the crowds were getting out of hand. They were being lewd during the executions, and
how dare you sully our execution with your roughhousing in the crowd, you uncouth bumpkins. We're trying to put someone's head in a basket, and you guys are over there cutting up.
Pun intended. Well, Mells, tell us about some of the weird facts. I believe there was a kid's toy that was a guillotine.
So the guillotine was actually a popular child's toy in the 1790s. The kids would use a miniature version of this. It was 2 feet tall, and the blade was fully operational. Okay, so they started.
That's pretty big. 2 feet tall. I'm kind of trying to. That's pretty big.
Yeah, a 3-year-old. The average height for a 3-year-old is about 36 to 37 inches.
Oh my god!
Which is about 3 feet. So,
oh my.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if they had a recommended age number like toys nowadays come with, 3+ or good for 18 months and above. No,
it's basically your child
kids.
better be smart. Good luck.
Yes, you need to be adult supervision required. I doubt that was even
no.
I doubt that was even put on the boxes for these guillotines. What they started to realize are that these kids were decapitating. I mean, it's one thing if little Johnny is out there, he's got his little sister Mary's dolls and he's decapitating them on the guillotine. Okay, we can forgive that, Johnny.
Johnny, you little asshole. My brother did that to my Luke Skywalker doll. So,
but they started noticing that they were also using it to decapitate small animals and rodents. So they would find little pieces of mice. So here's a little mouse's head. Here's a little mouse's body.
They're
just trying to prevent another plague.
No, they were all little serial killers. That's what it was. Because
they were
if the only thing you can watch is getting heads chopped off, then obviously that's and their father was just a guy with a neckerchief who swore and drank shitty wine, that they were going to aspire to be the executioner, and the only way you can practice is to chop off the heads of innocent things. Little monsters.
The front of the box should be like little serial killer's first starter kit.
Yeah.
Makes me think of this movie that it is an animated movie, Hotel Transylvania. But in in the second Hotel Transylvania, the Bride of Frankenstein actually gives a kid's first guillotine to Mavis's little boy. And Mavis immediately freaks out. She wants to know if she can baby proof this. And Bride of Frankenstein is like, I don't understand. Why do you want to baby proof the guillotine so they lose a few fingers? That's part of growing up, you know?
Mhm.
See, this is that was like real life.
That was actually real life back in these times.
It's revolution time. Yeah, exactly. So we didn't need any fucking seatbelts. Kids
No.
just rode on the carriage willy-nilly wherever. So
We're just using a mini guillotine to wreak havoc in the neighborhood. So
we still have these now though. They've got these little guillotines where you cut the cigar. You know,
They
they cut the tip
do.
of the cigar off. Yeah.
Sure.
I
So-
wonder if Guillotine himself was thinking at the time, this could be multifunctional. I better be getting some residuals off this in about 400 or so years when people start cutting their cigars with this.
I know. I'm gonna
Um,
look at his family line and see how well they're doing. see if the family tree ever got cut. A thing to say.
Get out.
Bye.
And I'm done for the day. Ba-doop-boop-boo. So they eventually banned this as a child's toy, but those homes that did still
Can't
have,
imagine why.
we don't know why. I mean, why not? These homes that did still keep these kids' toys, though, they just went ahead and retired it to more domestic uses, like slicing bread at the dinner table or cutting up a zucchini as an
Did
appetizer.
they really? Oh my god, that's what it's. We don't have to cut rats anymore. We barely have we can't wash anything, so and the plague's over, right? So we'll just keep using it for
Just boil that baby and cut up the bread for tonight's dinner. Be
exactly.
okay.
Dip it in some shitty water that we mop the floors with, and it's cool. So I guess executioners were kind of like celebrities.
Yes, which I thought was, and kind of like what Acadia just said, it's funny because if you did buy these little guillotines for the kids, maybe they were thinking, one day I will grow up to be an executioner because they're so cool,
I
They're
thought
so
they wore
nice.
big hoods.
Now, those were,
It seems
That's
like
what
they
the cartoons said.
right?
You mean the cartoons lied?
They would never lie.
I don't think the cartoons lied because they wore hoods when they did manual beheadings. I would think once the guillotine was introduced, there was the anonymity. Am I saying that right?
The what?
The what?
Anonymity.
Can you do that?
The anonymity.
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 And
You have to do outtakes from this
say-
recording.
This is
So,
fun. I'm gonna
They
leave it
didn't
in.
have to feel like they needed to be anonymous anymore because they weren't botching executions and things like that. That's my take on it, at least. So then they didn't have to wear the hood, and they knew what their role was in society, which was to carry out the executions.
I feel like that's like a Job from that'd be his perfect job. Like he would never Job from Arrested Development would never make a good
no, no, because I think the
But
only
he-
place that the guillotine still exists now is the toy, like, oh, I'm going to chop my finger off with this guillotine. It's an illusion, Michael. And not really chop off his finger. So,
I mean, but he definitely has a really good good presence on stage though. I really like it. So lots of handkerchiefs and doves.
So
Dead or alive.
there was one executioner that was kind of the main guy during this whole time. He was the right-hand man to Louis, which ironically, he also decapitated him. So it's almost like it came full circle. He is the one that actually carried out the testing. So Guillotine came up with the design, he came up with the specifics, and so Charles Henry Sanson was the person that actually was chopping off those poor live animals' heads and the corpse heads. And he was the one that was carrying out the field research, I guess you could say. for these new thoughts on
Chuck
the guillotine.
field researcher. Yeah.
Come on in here, Chuck. We got
R&D.
Chuck, we got a new design for you to try out. Come on in. But yeah, so he ironically executed Louis in 1793. He had a very impressive career. He was an executioner for 39 years. And during that 39 years, he executed over 3,000 people.
That's why that no PTSD for that?
Oh, he was a ruined shell of a man.
Well,
Look, think about it.
I was just
But
though because like so Louis didn't Louis have some sort of like King Louis have some sort of hand in the whole guillotine thing too though?
he most certainly
well, if he did, he lost it.
Yeah.
Now is not a time to lose your head over this, okay?
Mhm.
He did. He actually had a big role in suggesting the changes that were made to this apparatus, and it's funny that that would be what would ultimately be his demise, and it was a very short amount of time. It was literally a 9-month period from the time that Louis was head deep, hands deep, whatever you want to say, in the design and the field research on this guillotine to when he actually was guillotined himself.
This would be a good idea. Let's improve it. Let's do this and let's see how that works. And Charles Henry is all like, okay, get in. Hop in.
Yeah.
Come on, sir.
All right, Mr. Know-It-All. Ready?
Yeah, well, you better cross your fingers. You hope you were right. So
Oh.
there's a lot of controversy. I wanted to look some of this up, but I didn't have time. So I'm hoping that somebody will be able to fill me in on more details because apparently there is some consciousness that remains after an execution
yeah.
has been carried out. I have heard 2 or 3 things about this. I think I was like 11 years old in grade school where they were talking about the French Revolution, and I was like, bullshit. And I challenged my history teacher on it. And I remember him coming back to me at the end of the school year going, you know, there is some skepticism about that. Some would say that they could see the eyes moving.
Yeah, they could see the eyes moving, that they would still blink. Some of the people in the crowd would yell the person's name, and they would do it intentionally to see if they would look over at them or
Would they?
and they did. And these are all cases of hearsay, I guess you could say. I mean, things that were reported back after the executions. One guy who actually became pretty fascinated by what happens to your brain after decapitation did a lot of research on it. He came to the conclusion that he could watch the pupils and he could actually tell when the life was done, so when the brain activity had run out by the dilation of the pupils, but that they would still be focused, they would still blink, they would still move around. And he came up with the whole up to 5 seconds is what he kind of deducted from time of decapitation to plausible death.
Lights out.
Lights out.
So, speaking of the how long you can see after the guillotine, and I can't believe I get to work in another plug for Strangeful, but if you go listen to the Peter Curtin Vampire of Dusseldorf episode, at the end, after he got caught, he said, after my head is chopped off, will I still be able to hear, at least for the moment, the sound of my own blood gushing from the stump of my neck?
Ugh.
That would be the pleasure
What?
to end all pleasures.
What? Oh my god, that I have to go listen right away. That sounds intriguing, this guy.
That guy was fucked up.
Wow. Oh man. There's a story about I guess a guy who was researching people after they got their heads chopped off by the guillotine, and I guess he ended up.
Do you have time for a quick interview?
I've got 5 seconds here. A few rapid fire questioning.
Any shout outs? Is there this guy's like he ended up getting decapitated himself, and he's like, okay, check this out. Here's what's gonna happen. I want you to count how many times I can blink once I get my head cut off, okay? And apparently he blinked 11 times. Does anybody heard the story before?
I read that, and that, let me tell you something. That's called dedication. I get up every morning and I work, but I don't think I'm going to let anybody chop my head off. And I let you research on myself on how many times my eyes move after you cut my head off. Now, that's called dedication to your work right there.
I mean, he's just like, well, I'm in it to win it. I'm just gonna. This is how I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna go down with my boots on.
Set the bar for work ethic. This man right here.
Yeah, no joke.
I mean, I suppose if I knew that I was going to get my head cut off, like, I would want to be as much of a dick about it as possible. Like to say, all right, well, do I get any last requests? And they'd be like, oh, yes, you do. And I'd be like, no basket. I want that shit rolling right into the crowd.
I know.
I want it to be very inconvenient for you to have to go and get it.
Oh my God.
So I guess there was some gruesome experiments.
Yeah, I read about this one guy who would take the decapitated heads and he would try to experiment with them by putting like oxygen, things like that, fluids. I don't know what kind of fluids he had that he thought was going to bring these people back to life, but he was trying to make a zombie head. He literally was trying to do that.
That wouldn't die.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that movie with the lady's head in the tray?
Yes.
The amazing movie The Reanimator explores that exact same thing.
That's right.
That everybody should go and watch right away.
There's also Voices. I don't know if you've seen that, the Ryan Reynolds movie. Has anybody seen that? Because I'd never seen it until recently. I think I found it on Netflix. It's called Voices.
I have not seen that, but I'm definitely going to watch it.
I'm not even going to say anything about it because I was so pleasantly surprised at how awesome that movie is. There's a talking cat in it, by the way.
You've piqued my interest already, so.
Well, I don't know. I guess we're done talking about guillotines today. Guess what, everybody? You're not going to get guillotined, probably, because they don't do it anymore. So, but don't commit any crimes because they will still kill you in horrible ways, such as the gas chamber.
Let's not go crazy because, I mean, in theory, you could get guillotined. It just wouldn't be state sanctioned.
Oh, that's true. This is true. That could
because, like,
definitely still happen.
Technically, David Warner got guillotined in the Omen.
Yes, he did.
Except that it was a big piece of glass rolling off the back of a truck. I mean, essentially, I guess if your head gets chopped off by something that's not a person swinging an axe.
Sure.
That's
car accident, no seatbelt in a convertible. You know, that shit can happen.
Pretty sure that happened.
And heads aren't, I don't know. I just think the guillotine may actually have a bad rap because I think they legitimately were like, we got to be able to kill these people fast. Now, whatever you're going to say about the original problem of we got to be able to kill these people super fast because there's so many of them to kill. But the fact that nation states struggle with trying to find, quote unquote, humane ways to end people's lives is something that still happens, to this day. Over the past few years, there's been the drug companies saying, no, you can't use our drugs for your executions anymore. So the prisons are like, well, I don't know, go get some Fabuloso and we'll make them drink it. Or, I heard that if you mix ammonia and bleach, old ladies will die from washing eggs off their house on Halloween. So maybe we should
throw that in there. Yeah,
so
if you just mix it all together, it should be fine.
Oh,
then, like in Russia, they just go, oh, well, sorry, you were found guilty. Why don't you come out here with me? Bang! And they shoot him in the back of the head.
Yeah, that
you can make a case.
Humane way.
You can make a good case for, hey, you're gonna get it. You don't know when, but you don't think it's gonna be in like the next 2 minutes. So you know what I mean? Like it's like I'm gonna count to 3 and you do it on 2, like that kind of thing.
That's like the photography thing. Like, okay, everybody, 1, 2, click. You just don't until now everybody's not blinking. So yeah,
I guess I guess we'll have to go back to whether we want our society to be in the revenge business. And everybody can make their own decisions on that.
Have we ever gotten out of it though, for real?
But I think, no, not yet. Yeah. But I also think that that the guillotine, while it was a great invention and everything like that, the guy that lived on the top of that rocky hill, who previously would get, I don't know, a farthing or whatever, I guess it would have been a franc, to let people come up and push people down the hill out behind his house. He was out of a job. No one cared about him.
No. You know what? That guy went out and invented guns.
Yeah, that's true. He one-upped everybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, don't get your head. Don't lose your head, everybody. And we're gonna be out of here, and we will see you next week. Mells Bells, thank you for joining us today, and we should do some plugs. We're at Yikes Murder on Twitter. Come see us. We're also on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. We would love for you to join us over at Patreon. We've got some pens, we've got some stickers, and some swag we can send out to you.
That's right. And you get to have a well, let's see what kind of perk can I make up? You can have you can do an Ask Me Anything in the Patreon like comments, and I'll make up answers, I guess.
Yeah.
Or I'll send you my best drawing of a guillotine.
Oh, that would be nice. I just want you to send me a drawing of you writing the word drawing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to see that written out exactly how you did that.
Okay, that's great. And maybe later on we won't be able to recognize the identity of that sea anonymity that you discussed earlier.
Anonymity.
There's a Nemo in there somewhere, a clownfish swimming around. Do you have anything to plug, Acadia?
You can find me at Acadia on Twitter, at Superficial Gallery on Instagram. You can go to superficialgallery.com because it's still Women in Horror Month, and we still have more trading cards and interviews to put up. And you can go to our youtube.com/superficialgallery, which is going to have lots of fun stuff because we were just at Mad Monster Party here in Charlotte this past weekend. And I did an interview with a gal who wrote a movie and got it included in the festival, and sort of fun stuff like that.
And Mells Bells, what do you got for us?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mells Bells 84. I am part of Superficial Gallery, so you can always head over there and check out articles, check out our Women in Horror, like Acadia mentioned. We've got some great interviews out there right now. I am also on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook. And I think that's pretty much.
And everybody, if you don't know about Mells Bells, she is a psychotic Stephen King fan. So if you like Stephen King, follow Mells Bells, and she will do a lot of talking about Stephen King to you and at you.
That's true.
It's true, she will.
I will talk your ears off, and maybe your head as well, about Stephen King, if you would like.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us again, and we'll see you next week. We love you. Bye.
Bye.